Okay, welcome back to another vid, first one for a while, which is always the case these days. So lazy. Busy, that's all it is with work, and a little bit lazy as well. But hopefully going forward, he says, maybe if I can make at least a couple of vids a month. Come on, that shouldn't be hard, should it? So I thought I'd do a pickups vid. They're always the easiest ones to make. I think this is probably my third pickups vid in the last year. Again, disgraceful. Not made a video for 2.5 months, and then before that, before the last two, which arrived I think within a few days of each other, it was about 8 or 9 months before until I made my previous vid. So, goodness me, yeah, I need to get back to making them more regularly. I will, maybe. So, pickups vid, like I say. So I bought a few things, as you can imagine. You'll know already what you can see behind me for a start. Plus, it'll be in the description or the what's it called, the title thing. Can't remember what you call it. This vid's gonna be rough. It's gonna be really, really rough. But obviously, I've bought a lot of stuff this past year, even though I haven't been making very many vids, and I continue to buy games as well. So I'm not shy of games to show on pickup vids and do vlogs and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, let's crack on. So as you can see behind me, I have picked up, never thought I'd do this, and I'll explain why in a second. I picked up a NES, or an NES, call it what you will. And if you can see that, of course it is, it's on the other side, isn't it? $99.99 from Target, the original price sticker. So $100, which is around about 80 quid, 85 maybe, there or thereabouts. Now I don't think there's a Target branch in the UK, at least. I've been here nearly 15 years and there wasn't when I was there, so unless it's sprouted up since then, I doubt it. That's very much an American thing, I think. So, yeah, my history with the NES. Now, it's funny because I remember saying on this channel many years ago that there's no way I'd buy a NES. But I said something along the lines of, the day that you see me buying a NES is the minute you realise I've lost the plot. So, maybe I've lost the plot. But maybe you knew that years ago anyway. So, yeah, the reason why I bought it, well, here's the thing. What I'm finding, and maybe I can go into this in the future, because it's kind of an interesting topic, but what I'm finding as I get older is that my nostalgia isn't diminishing of anything, but it's getting more. But what I'm finding is that I've got more of an appreciation of the era, of that time, rather than specific things. It used to almost be everything I had in the past, let's say game-wise, consoles and computers. I used to be specific for those, specifically nostalgic for those. But now I'm finding that I'm actually quite nostalgic for things that I didn't have, because it came out in the era that I remember. So, yeah, I didn't have a NES back in the day. I didn't know anyone who did. Maybe there's one person, but I can't think of who it was. I remember playing it on one of those kind of arcade booths or kiosks in Boots, I think it was. Boots the Chemist. And maybe somewhere else, I just can't remember where it was. But really, when I was a kid anyway, it's not that they were never around. You'd see them in shops, Boots being one, John Menzies, W.H. Smith's maybe. But really, back in the UK in the 80s and the early 90s, we were still a computer nation, really, with your Amstrads, which of course was the best computer, we all know that, 8-bit computer. The Amstrads, Commodore 64s, Spectrums, and then of course 16-bit with the Amiga and the ST. Most people, not everyone obviously, but most people who had a computer or a gaming system would have had that. Not many people had a NES. A few more people had a Master System. But yeah, and then the SNES, the Mega Drive first, I guess. Once they came out, they started to dominate and computers took a back seat. PCs aside, naturally. But yeah, the NES wasn't particularly big, and I think one of the reasons why was the cost. Cartridges, 40, 50 quid. Where, like I say, when we had our 8 and 16-bit computers, a full-price top whack game was 25 quid for the Amiga and the ST, but budget games are $6.99, $7.99 for the 8-bit computers, the Amstrad, the Commodore 64, the Spectrum. Budget games are a couple of quid. The full-price games are kind of £10, £12 maybe, 15 possibly if you maybe had the disc version. So it was so much cheaper, and of course you could copy the games. Whereas with cartridges, you couldn't do that back then. So the NES never really took off, but in America it was huge. You'll all know this already, of course. It was absolutely massive. Now, all that said, of course, like I say, they were available in the UK, even though they didn't massively take off the NES console. But I did want one. I've touched upon this story before. I did want one for Christmas of 1990 because that's when the Turtles pack came out, and I still want to get that. It would have to be mint condition, obviously, or close to it. And they're quite pricey. You know, they do crop up every now and again on eBay, but pretty pricey, those things. You know, 400-500 quid maybe for nice, nice condition, crisp edges. Like this is, to be honest, really, really nice condition. In fact, it could almost pass as new. There's a little bit kind of slight wear on the side here, but it's really not that bad at all. It feels very tight and compact. So yeah, I wanted to get, for a brief moment in time, the Turtles pack in Christmas 1990. But the closer we got to Christmas, I stupidly and foolishly changed my mind at the last minute, and I got an Amstrad GX4000 instead. Unbelievable, but no regrets, because listen, I know it sounds very sort of philosophical and a bit like soft, and but if I hadn't have got that, then who knows what direction my life would have went. I might not have done this, that and the other, might not be in America, might not be making YouTube vids. So it is what it is, it was what it was. So it helped form me as a person, so I wouldn't change it for the world. I did enjoy the GX4000 for about 2 weeks, and then quickly realised there was no games out for it, other than what was already out on my Amstrad. So it was kind of pointless, really, paying more for the same game, but because it was on a cartridge, that's what we were paying the extra 25 quid for. So anyway, I didn't get that in the end, and got the GX4000 instead of an Amiga as well. That was the other thing I was going to get. I was going to get an Amiga in '89, but put that off because I wanted a mountain bike, because they were massive. And then 1990, it was like, right, let's get an Amiga. Oh no, let's get the Turtles pack. No, let's get the GX4000. And then eventually I got an ST actually the following year, and then an Amiga a year or two later, I think. So, yeah. So I've basically got the NES because I keep picking it up. Why not? So I've got this because, like I say, I'm starting to get more nostalgic about the era more than anything else. I'm looking back at a lot of these games, and they're looking nostalgic, even though I might not necessarily have played them back in the day. But I remember them, I remember those times. And another thing that's really helping, in fact, I wasn't going to show this because I just forgot, really. I'll just pull out one copy. And speaking of the Turtles, is I've recently bought a full set of Mean Machine magazines, or Mean Machines. So these are amazing. And when you're flicking through these, they just make you really nostalgic. Full of NES, Master System. I'm thinking about getting one of those as well soon. Mega Drive, Genesis, SNES, all that kind of stuff. And, oh, do you know what? Unbelievable. This is going to be relevant in a second as well. There's Robocop, as you can see behind me. So, picked up a full set of Mean Machines, and I'm just absolutely loving going through those. And it could be a series of vids in the future, never say never. So I'm finding that just by flicking through these magazines, it's just taking me back. It's taking me back to those times, to stories of friends having these systems, or just reading them in the magazines, and I'm really enjoying it. So, sorry about that. There's going to be probably a few jump cuts in this. I should say that I'm working remotely today, so if I get a message on my screen on my computer over there, or the telephone goes, I've got to get it. So there may be further jump cuts, just saying. So yeah, anyway, where was I? I was talking about the NES. Probably witching on repeating myself, I'm sure. So let's show a couple of games that I bought for it. I bought a few, but we're just going to show a couple in this vid. So the first up is the one you can see right behind me. By the way, that intro is brilliant. I love it. It looks really cool for an 8-bit console. And it's Robocop 2. The condition of this is amazing. Really, really good. Now, I paid around about $75 for this, which is about sort of 60 quid. Now, I had seen, going back a few weeks or whenever it was, I'd seen 2 boxed copies on eBay. So it doesn't really appear like it's something that is massively common for a boxed complete copy, especially one in good condition. One of the copies was, I think, $200, so obviously I wasn't going to be paying that. And then the other one was $150 with a best offer. I think the other one had a best offer too. But the thing is with the $150 one, is it had 9 watches, might still do. So obviously that, to me at least, says that people are interested in the game, enough are interested that they want it, but maybe 150 is just too much money. But they're maybe thinking about it, watching the item just in case a cheaper one becomes available. And lo and behold, quite recently this one came up. It was a newly listed item, so it still had the newly listed tag on it on eBay. And it was a buy it now. There wasn't a best offer. I think of 75. It was either $75 American or 75 Canadian dollars. I can't remember where it came from. Maybe I'm confusing it with another one. But 75 something. I wish it was 75 pence, I'll tell you that. But I snapped it up immediately. Newly listed item. Like I say, I was watching the other one for 150. I wasn't going to pay that, but I was watching it nonetheless with 9 other people. So to get it for $75, geez, done it again. Half the price essentially. I thought I've got to do that. So really pleased to get it. The condition is amazing. Now the actual game, which is the important thing. So here's the thing. It's a side-scrolling, well, kind of side-scrolling, up and down platformer. This level is brutal, like you can see on the screen. So ridiculous. So early 90s, in fact 1990. Slap bang, 1990 when it came out. So ridiculous, and like, look how daft the designs are in the game. So it's a really tricky game. It is hard. It is a little bit infuriating, but there's a couple of problems that I've got with it. One of them is that you don't really know what you're doing. So for example, the very first level of the game, the point is you've got to arrest a certain amount of bad guys. Now, to be fair, I've since found out that a sound, a notification goes off when a bad guy's about to come onto the screen, and when that happens, don't shoot him, just kind of run into him, and it will automatically arrest him, which is kind of what you want. So you've got to do that a certain amount of times, like a certain percentage that you've got to get. But also, and this is the more challenging thing, you've got to disarm a certain amount of nukes. I think it's maybe 12 or maybe 13 that you've got to disarm, and there's maybe 15 or 16 on the map at any given time. So you might be thinking, well, that's not too difficult. Well, it is, because you can't get them all for a start. It's impossible, because if you choose to go up into one direction and get one, it means that you've gone up that way and you can't go back down, so you miss the opportunity to get that one. So it's impossible, so it seems, to get them all, and you can't go back. So once you move forward onto the screen, you can't track back and think, oh, well, I'll just get the other one I missed out on. You can't do that. So sometimes you've got to choose which one you want to get. So I guess it's all about memorization, of studying how many nukes are on the map and which ones you can get to and how many you can get to, as opposed to if you were to take another direction, if that makes any sense. But it doesn't tell you how many you're meant to get. So the first time I played the game, I just blitzed through the level. I mean, you die a few times because you fall down little jumps and stuff. But eventually you get to the end of the level. I think I picked up maybe 7 or 8 nukes. And it said, oh, basically you didn't disarm enough. You've got to do it again. So it took me back to the start of the level. And I was like, yeah, but how many do I need? It didn't tell me. So I collected as many as I could. And it said, still not enough. Got to go back. Now, sometimes what it'll do, I've not figured it out how often it does this. Maybe it's every second or third go. Is if you haven't done it, you go to what is like a firing range, and it's kind of like the screen turns into like an Operation Wolf, Operation Thunderbolt, kind of light gun zapper, which incidentally comes with this game, along with Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt, which I've not played Duck Hunt. I might do in the future. Super Mario Brothers, of course, it's a classic. So anyway, so you're doing this. It's not controlled by the light gun. It's just by the standard controller. So yeah, you got to shoot a few like kind of power-ups and shoot the bad guys who appear on screen and all that kind of stuff. And if you do that, you then progress to the actual genuine second level, which isn't too dissimilar to this in terms of its layouts. So, but if you fail at the target practice, you go back to the first level of the game, and then you've got to basically collect enough nukes or disarm enough. But I don't know how you can disarm any more than I'm doing. It's like I don't get that, but it's kind of really confusing. So that is a bit of a fault with the game. So the other problem with the game is, apart from it just being a difficult game because it's a throwback to the late 80s, early 90s, is that when Robocop lands after jumping, just for a split second, he slides, depending on what direction you jump in, forwards, backwards, whatever. And that's a problem because, especially when it's a platformer and you're relying on accuracy, you can jump off one ledge and fall off another and obviously mistime your jump, because of that sliding mechanic which is there. So if they'd have not implemented that, it would have been so much better. Now, it's not a game breaker, but it is a bit of a nuisance to jump and then to slide. So you kind of got to control that when he lands, and that can be frustrating. It really can. But like I say, it's not a game breaker. It's just an odd kind of decision why they went with that. You know, this big steel robot, essentially, or mostly robot. So you'd imagine that when he lands, he would come to a standstill, not start sliding like he's doing some kind of ice skating. So I don't quite get that, but it's not a game breaker. So yeah, overall, I am enjoying it. It is really hard. The music is brilliant. I absolutely love the music. It's really good. The intro at the start, like I said earlier on, with the bullets flying out, looks really cool. The sound effects are decent enough. Graphics, pretty good. This level, again, I haven't got this far, of course, but it's ridiculous. Like the reflexes you might see, where you've got to jump like really quick, like that there. How, do you know what I mean? Unless it's repetition and memorization, then how are you supposed to initially have reflexes of a cat like that? Ridiculous. So, but it's a sign of the times, isn't it? Many of these games were like this back in the day. It's just about memorization, as I keep saying, and practice and perseverance. So that's Robocop 2. I'm really enjoying it, but it is hard. Next up is a game which is kind of hard, but it's made so much easier because unfortunately they've implemented like unlimited lives and unlimited continues. So you can basically put this game on and technically finish it in one sitting, which I've not done. I've deliberately stopped myself from doing that because I want to try and get as far as I can and ideally finish the game with just a few credits, not just cheating my way essentially to it. And that game is called Guerrilla War. Again, of course, apologies for any glare. I love these silver kind of spines as well. Well, not kind of, they just are silver spines, by SNK. So basically, Guerrilla War is a top-down game, if you can even see from the back. I may be putting screenshots up, if I can be bothered. I'm pretty lazy. But it's just basically like Ikari Warriors, but significantly better. Ikari Warriors on the NES I did actually pick up, and it would have been on a pickup spin about 4 or 5 years ago. But back then I was playing my NES games, and I didn't have many, but I was playing them through the Retron 5, whereas now, of course, as you've seen, as you can see, it's original hardware. So this is much better for me than Ikari Warriors, at least the first one. Graphics are good. It's based off an arcade game, as you may have seen off the back there, which I don't remember. No, where is it? Here it is. So, yeah, I don't remember it first time around back in the day. But it is good. Graphics good. Playability's fine. But yeah, it's just that factor of basically you feel like you're cheating your way to victory, quite frankly, because it's just too easy because of the unlimited continues. I like the fact there's some of the environments are destructible. That's good. There's quite a decent amount of weapons in there. So yeah, top-down game, and from at times left to right as well. If you like those kind of Ikari Warriors, Mercs, Warzone, back in the ST and the Amiga days, remember that one? Those kind of games, if you like that, you might like this. It's another one which is fairly pricey, not outrageously, but yeah, when I saw it, I thought I've got to get that. So yeah, there's a couple of games that I've got for the NES, or the NES, call it what you will. I'm really enjoying it. I do want to get a Master System. I've been checking out a few prices. I did put a cheeky bid in the other day on one, and the seller just rejected it, but then his auction never sold, so he relisted it. And I'm watching it again, but no one's bidding on it because he's asking for stupid money, so we'll see. There's no rush. I was being a bit greedy, kind of getting carried away with the whole kind of, nostalgia thing, even though I don't have direct nostalgia, as I touched upon before, for the NES, in terms of owning one anyway. But I'm feeling that with the NES and the Master System, the SNES, which is actually, there's the Super Famicom is set up as well, so I'm loving it. I'm really kind of in the 8 and 16-bit mould, which I always have been, but really enjoying it now, almost more than ever. It's bizarre. So, speaking of 16-bit and speaking of the Super Famicom, as I just showed, I've only put this on very briefly. I did briefly, again, play it back in the day at a friend's house, and it's Gradius, or is it Gradius? I should know after all these years. Another one, like Robocop 2, that came out in 1990. So, yeah, it's a shooter. What more can I say? I did see a couple of people. I know Eddie Rollercore, I think anyway, did a gameplay of this like a few days ago, maybe it was last week. And I think I saw someone else do it as well, I can't remember. I've not really been too active on YouTube, so I did see the thumbnail for it, and I will watch the vid soon. So, yeah, for the Super Famicom, in fairly nice condition. Really cheap as well, all things considered. I think this is around about $25, which is about 20 quid, which surprises me, because for a shooter, you'd expect them to go for a lot more. So interesting how they've got that, the kind of the side-on kind of box art on the front and the back. So yeah, again, what more can I say? It's a shooter, it's good, it's a bit of a classic, you've got to have it. It is difficult, but then I always find those games difficult. I love playing them, I'm just useless at them. But again, like everything else, like I said, practice makes perfect. Okay, so next up, it's time for another system. Another system that I picked up not so long ago. A system of sorts. And this one really does have a lot of nostalgia. And again, I've really got back into this. It's just incredible. I'm just really going back in time recently with this stuff and just genuinely loving it. The novelty might wear off a little bit and the purchases may kind of like, kind of pace out a little bit more than what they have. But again, I'm just going to show, well, 3 games kind of, but one that I bought separately. Anyway, that system, the handheld, is the Game Boy. Nintendo Game Boy. Boxed, excellent condition. I've got to be honest, there is a bit of a fault with the Game Boy itself. It wasn't advertised at the time, annoyingly, and do you know what, I'm going to put it on. Let me turn the sound down just in case some stupid copyright reason comes on. So, can you see there? Yeah, you can. Just about, because of the glare. You see that, bloody hell, you can see me in there as well. The yellow line, like 3/4 of the way down the screen. So there's a yellow line on there, and that's prevalent throughout the entire game. Now, when the screen is kind of like yellowy graphics, you don't really see it because it blends in, but when it's like dark grey or like the dark green, it does kind of stick out and it can get in the way of gameplay. You can also, conversely, forget it's there and immerse yourself into the game, but really you do see it, so that's frustrating. So, of course, when I put that on and I saw that, I was like, oh, bloody hell, really? So I mentioned it to the seller, of course, and said, look, this is the situation. Do you want me to return it, or do you want to do like a telephone's ringing, BRB? Okay, I'm back. Did you even hear the phone in the background there? I've got it down pretty low. See, I am working, kind of. So I had to get that. A member of staff needing some help, so they think I'm there sitting working really hard. Well, I am. I'm working hard doing this vid for you. You see? What can I say? So, what a slacker. Unbelievable. So where was I? I was talking about the Game Boy, and I think how I... oh yeah, that was right. Yeah, let's hold up the actual Game Boy. So there was a problem with this, as you've seen, with the line going across the screen. I contacted the seller. I said, look, what do you want to do? Do you want me to return it? I can. I said, it's no fault of yours. Don't worry, I'm not angry or anything like that. Maybe you didn't test it, or maybe you didn't notice it. No problem. Do you want me to return it? And they got back to me and they said, well, I'll tell you what, how about a refund, a partial refund? Maybe I might suggest that actually. Would you like me to return it or a partial refund? I think that's what it was. And they got back to me and said, yeah, sorry about that. I didn't notice. They're not really familiar with games and technology. They were selling it on behalf of someone else, apparently. And long story short, they said, would you like to keep it? Would you like a $50 refund? It was still quite expensive what I paid for it. Because it's in really nice shape. There's some sticker residue here, but that will come off with a bit of light cleaning, and you might not really see it, to be honest. But other than that, a slight dent here, I think it is. I can kind of feel it there. But everything else is, really, really good. It's in really nice, clean condition. There's the poly inserts are in there. It all came bagged as well. Have I still got the bags? Do you need to see all those? A couple of bags, I think you can see there, can you? Yeah. With the headset or the mic, which hasn't been used, it doesn't look like, since 1989 did this come out. So I said to the seller, yeah, that would be really nice, a $50 refund. I'll accept that rather than return it, because I didn't really want to return it because it's in really nice condition. And so I had a look on YouTube, and basically this is fixable. So the minute that I kind of saw that and he was offering $50 back, I thought, well, what I can do, I mean, it's probably going to be a disaster, but I could buy a soldering iron, because I watched a few vids. It looks quite easy. So you kind of take it apart with the screwdriver, with the screws here, and then basically detach the screen into 2 bits. And there's like under the screen, essentially, there's like a little kind of bar. And you put the soldering iron on there, and the heat that it generates, obviously set it to a certain temperature, I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, and then that in theory just makes the pixels, the lines come back slowly. So it looks in theory that it's going to be quite a simple, it'll be a disaster of course, but it looks like it could be in theory a very simple kind of fix. So I might buy a soldering iron for $20, $25 or so. I might need, I've not even looked at it, a special kind of screwdriver to open this up, so that'll be a few dollars. So for the $50, I'm probably just going to get like I say, a soldering iron and some equipment, maybe a new screen, because it's got a couple of, not scratches, but some dust on there, but it seems to be behind the screen weirdly, so I don't know. Might even get a backlight installed as well, so maybe that's what I'll do with that $50. So it works, I can still play the games, but ultimately I was sold an item which was meant to be working, and it's got a line across the screen. So it was nice of the seller to offer that partial refund. And they said, look, or you can return it. And I said, well, actually, I'll take you up on that. Thank you very much. So pleased to get it. It's in really good condition. And despite the line being at times a nuisance, I'm very much enjoying playing Tetris. In fact, you saw it when I put it on. Also, it came with this Gauntlet 2 in its little kind of box. I don't know why I'm taking this out. What's the point of this? But yeah, there we are. And I bought a game. In fact, I bought a couple of games, but the one I'm going to show you here, and it was not cheap. It really wasn't. But you know, you've got to kind of pay the going rate, haven't you? So it was the best part of pushing $100. And here's the thing: it's quite hard to get, which is why it commands this price. In good condition, even harder to get, and it's in pretty good condition. A couple of little dents here and there. But the game is so easy, but it's incredibly nostalgic. It's just too easy. And it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or Hero in the UK, Fall of the Foot Clan. So really nice condition, boxed and complete and all the rest of it. I won't get it out, what's the point? Because I'll probably knacker the lid as well if I do that. So yeah, again, there may be some screenshots that you can see. It's just a Game Boy game. You all know what they look like. So the sprites are all very nice. The music is good in its sort of, charming Game Boy way. But it's just too easy. It really is. But I'm liking it. It is nostalgic. So that's that. That's the Game Boy. And I'm really into that as well recently. It's just kind of a coincidence that I've got the NES and got the Game Boy, like Nintendo stuff going on. And there's some more Nintendo stuff in a bit that I'll show in this vid. It's not like I'm not going down of, Nintendo only. Like I say, I'm looking at the Master System. I'm debating, do I get a Genesis? That name annoys me. Being so nostalgic, it's about the Mega Drive, so I might get the Genesis, we'll see. It's the same games, isn't it, at the end of the day? Or I might get a Japanese Mega Drive. I think when it comes to the PAL stuff, of course I'm nostalgic for that and the boxes, but as I touched upon, I think a few vids back, it just got to the point for me a while ago, and it had been bubbling up for years, where it became increasingly harder and more difficult to justify paying £20 shipping per game. I just can't do it, and it's just ludicrous. It's just pissing money away. So I might as well just get the games on eBay in America, whether it's American games or the occasional PAL game or Japanese games. It's just so much easier on the wallet. And yeah, alright, the Genesis is not the Mega Drive in terms of looking at it and the name, but it is the same in the sense that it's the same system. And maybe I should just get over myself and just have it there and play the games. But then it's the red spines, which annoy me. I like the blue ones, but whatever, does it matter? The answer is it doesn't really. It does a little bit. So we'll see. But yeah, thinking of getting one of those, and maybe just slowly just phasing out some of the truly nostalgic PAL stuff, because, as I say, importing it is a nightmare. There is one system which I struggle to get anything other than PAL for, and that's the next one. Two kind of, but I'll talk about that. In fact, let's talk about that now. So, speaking of, it's the PlayStation. And yeah, it's kind of got to be PAL. I have bought the odd American PS1 game here and there, and I'm sure I'll continue, and maybe one day I might prefer it, again for the same reasons of saving on shipping costs and all the rest of it. But I do find it hard. I just love these, the aesthetic looks of the PAL PS1 games, even though in actuality the design is rubbish. They fall apart, they break really easily, but I just think they look really cool, the uniformity, and it just brings back all the memories. Anyway, the game that I've got and bought back, and I'm really enjoying this actually. It's one of my favourites in the series. I think for some it might be the black sheep really, but for me it's really good. And that game is Rage Racer, so obviously in the Ridge Racer franchise. And yeah, really liking it. One of the things that I really like about the game, and I loved it back in the day and I'm really enjoying it now, is that how gritty it is. If you look at something like Ridge Racer Revolution, for example, which is my least favourite in the series, but maybe more of that another day, it's a game I constantly try to get into and I never can. Ever since 1996, I keep putting it on every once in a blue moon thinking, maybe this will be the day that I get into it, and it never is. Never say never. But yeah, so that's really kind of bright and colourful with its palm trees and the sunsets and all that kind of stuff. This is dark, this is gritty, and one of the things I love, and when I was playing it the other day, it reminded me of back in the day, because there's a section in the game, one of the early races, and it appears, I don't think it is, it could be, but I'd have to look at it again, but it appears that rain's kind of coming down, but I don't think that's the case. I just think it's the polygons on the PS1 kind of flickering like through the sky to give that the illusion, accidentally, that the rain is coming down in like the dark, murky sky. But it adds to that immersion. It looks really cool. And I remember playing it back in the day in 97, was it 98? Well, it says 94, that's not right. Yeah, 96. I guess 94 was when Ridge Racer first came out on the PS1 in Japan, I suppose. Because wasn't it 93 when it first came out in the arcades, technically speaking? So 1996, yeah. So when 96, 97 when I was playing it on my PS1, and I remember like it was yesterday, just putting it on, and it was a dark, gloomy day outside as well. So it's dark and maybe rainy outside, and I'm playing Rage Racer at the time, and I remember thinking, oh my god, it's raining outside and it's raining in the game. But like I say, in hindsight, I just think it was the polygons moving around, which is kind of funny. So, and I saw that the other day and it just took me right back. But yeah, I think it looks good. I love how in this game, I'm sure it wasn't the first game to do it, but how you've got like the hills and the steep inclines. It's really good how that's implemented. And then you go up the hills and you go down them. And of course, as you're going up them, it's slow. It's like you're kind of driving in treacle, really. But I like that because it's kind of a degree of realism about it to a degree. And so yeah, I'm really liking it. It's one of my favourite, not the most favourite in the series, but one of them. I think it's quite, for me, an underrated game. So that's Rage Racer on the PS1, and it comes as well with, obviously, with all the instruction manuals and stuff. Let's take that out. But with one of these demo discs. And I've got a few games like that. So, yeah, really pleased to get it. So that is that. Now, sticking with PlayStation, this is a PAL PS2 game. Now, my PS2 is multi-region. In fact, it's a Japanese system, but it's multi-region, hence how I can play this. And this came up recently, and it came up at a really good price. I think it was around about $30. And I'd seen it in the past go for around about $50 or $60, which I wasn't really prepared to pay. But when I saw it come up for $30, again, another relatively newly listed item, I thought, that's worth it. Let's buy it, and I did. And it's called Soul Divide. It's essentially a side-scrolling shooter, like with fantasy kind of dragons, well, as you can see on the front, and you know, witches and magicians, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, pick up your power-ups. A typical kind of shooter, really. So it's funny because the first time I put it on, I didn't read the instructions whatsoever, which makes me laugh because when you hold up the instruction booklet, it actually says on the front, before you play the game, read the instruction booklet. Well, that's fine if you've picked it up to look at that. Maybe it should say that on the menu screen. But anyway, so I picked up the instruction booklet and read it after I started playing the game. And the only reason I did that is because when I started to play the game, I think it was maybe the square button on the PlayStation controller, PS2 controller, and I think that's shoot, if memory serves me right. And but it wasn't an auto fire, so which is fine, but it was a bit weird. I thought this could really knacker your arms out after a while. So every time you're kind of tapping it as you're moving along the screen. And I thought, surely there's an auto fire on here. And I seemingly thought so anyway. Pressed all the buttons and it didn't seem to do anything. Looked in the instruction manual and I think it's L1 or R1, which is the auto fire. So, of course, as soon as I figured that out, I just restarted the game and I just basically held the auto fire down for the duration of the game. It just makes everything so much easier, of course. So, yeah, it's one of these games made by 505, and as you can see at the bottom down there. So the quality's not amazing, but it's okay. I kind of like it in sort of a relatively unknown kind of way, because I'm sure I'd heard of the game. I think it came out on the PS1, but PS2 copies, in my experience, seem to be a little bit harder to come by. So maybe limited quantities, maybe it's not so widely available. So yeah, maybe it's a bargain. Maybe you picked it up for £1. I don't know, but for me, when I've seen it in the past, it's $50, $60. And it doesn't come up very often, so $30 I thought was a good price, so I'm enjoying that. And the only other thing I'll say about the PS2 and buying PAL games is, for me, yes, alright, I am important, I talk about trying not to these days when it comes to PAL stuff, but every single, literally, PlayStation 2 game that I've got, and I've not got many, maybe 20 or so, but every single one that I've got, I've bought from America. I've seen it available on eBay.com, American eBay, and I thought, yeah, I'll buy that. Every single one. So that's how I justify that. So that is that. Speaking of PlayStation, let's show you this game. Now, I'm playing this at the moment, so maybe I'll talk more about this in an upcoming vlog. I don't think I'm going to get a chance to do a vlog this week, but maybe next or whenever. And it's a cross-platform game for the for the PS3, but obviously available on the 360. And it's Dead Space. Really, really good. I've got to be honest, for a game that came out in 2008, I think, according to the back, still looks good. The immersion's brilliant. Sound, of course, fantastic. Graphics look really nice. I'm enjoying it. I think within 10-15 minutes, there's 2 or 3 jump scares. So there's that. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's a good game. Now, generally speaking, these days, I mean, it really does vary, but I try and get my cross-platform games on the 360. But to be honest, well, clearly I've just completely thrown that rule out the window with this. But does it really matter? Not really. And quite frankly, I go through phases, and I always have, since getting a 360 and a PS3 going back to when they came out. So, yeah, I've always, like, you know, I'll go through a phase of maybe for half a year just buying everything pretty much cross-platform on the 360, but then all it will take is to play like a game like this, for example, on the PS3, cross-platform one, and then I'll get everything on the PS3 cross-platform. Easy for me to say. So, yeah, I've always done that. I've bounced back and forth between both systems, and I think I'll probably always continue to do it. So, I've got one cross-platform game on the 360 in a minute to show you, but yeah, this one's on the PS3. But I do like the PS3 cases, I've got to be honest, but then I like the 360 ones. I like the look of those, but I like the feel of these better. Isn't it ridiculous? It's all just like, it screws with your mind, doesn't it? Does it really matter at the end of the day what you get it on? It's the same game. Although, I guess technically, cross-platform games run that bit better on a 360. But yeah, anyway, really enjoying it. It holds up for me, and I'm having a lot of fun with it, and yeah, surprised with how much I'm enjoying it. So, that aforementioned cross-platform 360 game. Again, I like the look with like the green box and the white background. It just looks nice. I think it does anyway. And I can't believe I've never played this game before. I don't even think I've owned it. Maybe I did back in the day when I was buying games like an absolute maniac on the 360 and PS3. But I saw some gameplay recently. One of those classics, you know, hidden gems, all that kind of stuff. And I thought, I can't believe I've never played that. And possibly never owned it. So I went straight onto eBay. $4. It's about £2.50, $2.75. Can't turn it down. Simply can't turn it down. Boxed condition is brilliant. Complete. So that game is Prototype. So, yeah, I've not even put it on yet. I'm going to stick it on later. And, yeah, I'm looking forward to playing it. So, it's kind of, I guess, a sort of first-person, relatively open world of sorts, I think. Never played it, just saw some brief gameplay. It just looked interesting. So, this will be something that I'll probably talk about when I do that vlog. It'll be one of the games that I'm either playing at the time, or maybe I might have finished it by that point. Probably not finished it, but I'll certainly talk a little bit about it anyway. So, really nice clean condition. There's the spine in case anyone cares. Sometimes they're different in America compared to the UK. So, or wherever you're watching this for that matter. Box and complete, like I say. And yeah, I just think it looks nice with the contrast of the white and the green, the light green. I don't know, I've always liked the 360 cases and the PS3 ones, which is probably why I've always bounced back and forth. Now, the last 360 game I'll show is an exclusive. I'll be perfectly honest, I have owned this game before. That's not the bit about the honesty. The honesty part is, it was many years ago as well, probably nearly 10 years ago I had this. And then I moved it on because I just didn't really like it at the time. For me, I thought, my voice broke there. For me, I thought it was a very much a poor man's Grand Theft Auto. And that game is Saints Row. Now, this just arrived yesterday, so I've not had a chance to put it on yet, but I'm looking forward to giving it a go. It's not that I thought it was a bad game. Let me sort of retract a little bit. I didn't think it was bad. I just, like I say, I didn't think it was good as Grand Theft Auto. And if you've got Grand Theft Auto, and I suppose 4 would have been out at this point, then why would you play this? At the time, I didn't understand it. Play that game over this. So, but what prompted me to get this was I noticed last week, I think it was, a reboot of this appears. I think it's a reboot. It's coming out on PS5 and Xbox Series X, and I guess PC as well. And there's been a lot of controversy about it. A lot of people not liking it. They're saying it's kind of, one of these kind of woke games. So people are in uproar, up in arms about it. And but I guess, listen, I don't know. It's not really aimed for me, the new game. It's not really my demographic. I might try it in the future, but it's not really for me. Not really. At least I don't think it is. Maybe it's meant to be a tribute to the people who remember the original. I have no idea. But it's replaced all the characters, the original characters, with a more kind of hip, trendy, and more kind of like 2021 sort of youthful kids, I guess. It doesn't quite look right to me, but then again, I'm not in uproar about it. I don't really care less. It's just a game, isn't it? Just play it and enjoy it, or not. But either way, I'm looking forward to getting back into this for the first time in many a year, and it'll be interesting to see whether all these years later, whether I like it a lot more than what I did, or whether I still think it's a poor man's Grand Theft Auto. So we'll see. That's that. And then last but not least, I'm going to show 2 games that I've got for another Nintendo system, and that's the Switch. And the first game, and I'm loving this game, it's the kind of game that does have a campaign of sorts, but I just put it on, at least thus far, just for a quick game every now and again. And I just enjoy it that way. I'm not taking it seriously, and just have fun with it. And for me, I am having a lot of fun with it. And that game is Mario Golf Super Rush. And I love the little artwork that you get. I mean, it's not amazing, is it? But I mean, it's nice that there's something there rather than just nothing. So, and the cartridge is obviously in the Switch right now. So, yeah, I'm really liking it. I do not really like the spines. I've always been consistent with that. I just think it looks a bit of a mess where you've got a lot of Switch games on the shelf. Although it might depend on your kind of setup. You know, like what kind of colour shelving do you have, how well lit is the room, etc. Many factors, I guess. So, yeah, but who cares in the scheme of things. So the game itself is really good, it's really fun. They've recently added some courses to it, an extra character or 2, I think. And so I downloaded that for free, which is nice. And yeah, it's just Mario Golf, that's all it is, but it's fun. It's the controls are a bit more refined from previous versions. And what more can you say? It's just like a party game, but you can play it by yourself, Billy No Mates, why not? I've been doing that a little bit. And I enjoy it, it's fun. It's Mario Golf, bright, colourful, puts a smile on your face, and I'm enjoying it. What more can I say? And then last but not least, up until the other day, I would have mispronounced this, but apparently you pronounce it a different way, and you're supposed to pronounce it as Kaze. Kaze and the Wild Masks. I just said K's myself, but there we are. Now this is a platformer, the cartridge is in there. Speaking of no artwork, see, that's bland, isn't it? That's rubbish. So, yeah, it's a platformer, and it's a throwback in particular to Donkey Kong Country on the SNES. I think I heard, I stand corrected, but maybe some people who worked with Rare worked on this game, and you can definitely tell how easily influenced it is, because if you remember back on the SNES days in Donkey Kong Country, how you could collect the letters to spell out Kong, well in this you collect the letters to spell out, I think he said K's there, Kaze, apparently. So, yeah, and it's just the fact that it's just a platformer. Again, screenshots probably on the screen, but there's some on the back pointlessly for you to see. Bright, colourful, much like many Nintendo games, as I touched upon with Mario Golf. It is very challenging, maybe overly so at times, but like anything else, it's got that repetition, the memorising where everything is and what kind of tactics, I guess, to use at certain points of the map. And yeah, it's good. I'm enjoying it, and that's that. It wasn't very expensive. I don't think it was like a full price $60 game. I think it might be like $30 or $40. So that's good as well. So there we are. A bit of an eclectic mix of various systems there, and a literal couple of systems as well, with the NES behind me and the Game Boy. So yeah, really back into the retro gaming. I've never left it behind, but in more recent times, really got into that sort of 8-bit mould, and the 16-bit, of course, is always going to be part of me. But the 8-bit, I'm really enjoying. And I mean, that level there behind me, that's going to take me about 50 years till I can get to that, because level 2 is a nightmare. I think you see level 3 on there, which is not too dissimilar to the second level. But yeah, so let me just say this actually, because it's relevant. When the second level starts, almost straight away, there's like these springs, and it catapults you into nowhere, and you just drop down this hole. It's like, really? So you've got to time that right. And then if you don't time it right, this kind of like, what is it, like kind of cylinder or something comes down. It's like a big foot out of Monty Python's Flying Circus. You're like, where did that come from? There's no warning, it just appears. It's really harsh and very unfair. Very, very unforgiving games from that era. Which, if you're around about my age, well, you'll know that anyway. They're just really, really harsh. But bizarrely, I am still having fun with it. I'm having fun with a lot of these older games, even if at times the difficulty curve is incredibly steep. So that's that. And then just very, very quickly, there's a stack of games I've picked up on the PC. I'm not going to go through them now. Maybe I'll save that for a vlog. But just in case you're curious, PS5, Xbox Series X, I am interested in them. My PC is better, I've got to be honest, when it comes to graphics and performance, so part of me thinks, is it worth it? But I do like that couch gaming, so I'm definitely not going to rule out getting a PS5, maybe even and an Xbox Series X eventually, but there's no rush. They're sold out anyway. They're impossible to get right now, unless you go on eBay and pay like, you know, $800-900, which is just ridiculous. I'm not going to be doing that. But maybe when they become available, I'll be more inclined to get them, because as nostalgic as I am, as much as I love playing the old stuff and really immersing myself in that 80s and 90s era, and I really do, I'm not maybe as overly nostalgic in that sense that some people might think. What I'm trying to say is I love the here and now, and I'm really excited about the future. It's not all about the past with me. I love that stuff, but I am excited about technology and the future in general, so I'm always keeping an eye out for them. I do think more and more as I get older, games, modern games, that maybe I'm not their target demographic anymore, but that's not to say they don't want people like me and you playing their games. It's just that we're not their target demographic. So never say never in the future, but really for me, going forward, I think I'm at that point now where I've realised, in my opinion, for me, the retro stuff, I've known this for years of course, but I guess I've accepted it now, that the retro stuff is my bread and butter. It's what I absolutely love, but at the same time, I personally don't want to be closed-minded enough to say no to future computers and consoles. You know, never say never. So anyway, until my next vid, which will probably be a vlog vid, might be this week, probably next. Thank you for watching. Thanks for sticking around. Sorry for being lazy, for not making vids. And I'll try and watch more vids. And, you know, there's a stack of new channels out there, which I've stumbled upon the odd video here and there. So there's so much to watch. It's just hard to keep up with it all. But I will eventually. Anyway, thank you for watching. Take it easy. See you later.